Alright, for this tutorial, it's a little color matching exercise, but it allows me to introduce a thing known as case statements. And case statements are basically the next step up from if then else. If then else's are used in different situations and cases, and conversely also used in different situations. But basically, it allows you to test a single variable and then to work out a response based on that. In the blue on the screen at the moment, you can see the switch statement, which, switch, test a variable. In the angled brackets, or the greater than and less than signs, is the variable that you're going to name. And then, of course, the individual cases plus the default case for when it doesn't know how to deal with it. And then the end of the switch statement, which I've written in there with a comment. At the end of each case, you do need a break, so it exits the case. In some regards, it's not good programming practice to break loops, but we'll get to loops down the track. But in this case, you do need to break it. Otherwise, it's going to start at the top of this list if it does the first test value and it resolves there, and then it'll go through every single thing here. So you can end up with a bit of a mess. But they're actually quite powerful in some cases. So next up, I have two examples for you here. The first is basically for a series of numbers. So a switch statement based on a number. Of course, cases 1 through 5, which gives you the numbers, a number between 1 and 5. And you can see here that it tests case 1, case 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then goes, okay, if it's any of those, all right, do this, and then break and exit to the end. Or if it's 6, 7, 8, again, same sort of thing. 9, 10, and the default is it's not between 1 or 10 because we've tested every other possible case, and obviously it's not. Don't actually need that break statement at the end for this final response because it'll automatically just sort of go, oh, don't do anything, and then I'm at the end, okay, out. This gives you an example of more complicated case structures. Programming wise, I personally view cases as a bit of an edge statement, and there's bound to be people who disagree with me and saying, no, it's used for this, this, and this, and these are all perfectly great solutions. But for me, I've rarely found the situation where I would go for a case over an if-then statement. So, anyhow, getting to the task I would like you to attempt today. Here is a sample of code that I've put together of an if statement. We want to convert this into a case statement. So I'm just going to exit our little thing here, and that's actually a thing, so I can't actually select it, but going into here. As you can see, this is a bog standard default setup. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to go into this and start modifying it. So I'm just going to start editing this. Hello. Choose a color. And then of course we want a variable, so it's a string. Color equals console dot read line, and now I've just added sColor, and of course I haven't declared it, so I better declare that variable. I should actually define what it is. It's a string sColor, and it will equal nothing. All right. Input. Alright. Now we'll process. And this is where we come in with a switch statement. In this case, I'm just going to switch that. You'll notice how basically it's switch, and then I name the inside brackets, I name the variable and then do curly braces. Everything within the curly braces, of course, is part of this whole thing. So I've got to pick out my first thing, and the first example I gave back here was blue. Now blue, and then colon to complete the case. I don't like that there. I want that down there. That's better. It looks better this way to my mind. So now I need to modify the console, and if you remember back to the example I gave, if we do console.foreground color equals console color dot and name that color. So console dot foreground color equals it's already picking it out for me. Console color dot blue. Done. Alright, and then I will break because that's the end of this chunk of the case statement. Then I look at the second case. So here we want a black, so again quote marks, colon, there's black. So if you remember back to when I was doing the if statement, it will, there's only semicolons because this is a complex compound statement. It's got, or block of code. It doesn't need a semicolon at the end because it's a complex thing, compound thing. I'm not sure why that's underlined. It should be fine. Interesting. It should just work. But anyhow, I'll keep going and see how we go. Now, because the foreground color is black, and black on black doesn't work as a color combination if you want to actually be able to see anything, let's add this to it, and then of course default, do nothing. Okay, and now the little wiggly line disappears. Alright, well, let's go with that. So if I hit F5 and test this, I'm going to actually break it on purpose. Let's have a look at this, and break it in a way that it should just work. The color did not change. I typed in black, but... So there's an operation we can do to this. Because it's a string, now I've got to remember what this is off the top of my head. Dot to lower. What that does is translates the string into lowercase. So we're testing this again. Give it a second. And it still doesn't work. What have I done wrong? Who knows? I thought that would work. Well, let's just test to actually make sure it does work. F5. Yes, it does. All right, well. So I've obviously done something wrong, and this is where I'd actually have to dive off into the great god Google. We'll actually go to the Microsoft Developers Network, or MSDN, and actually look at the language specifications. And that's actually quite easy. Oh yeah, that's me wandering around somewhere else. So here's the C reference, but in this case I'm looking at to lower, the to lower function. Hopefully this will pull it up. String to lower method. Alright. What does it tell us about this function? And sometimes, I mean, I know for myself, and I think a lot of other professional programmers out there will do the same thing, is that they will, string one indigo, blah, 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 does some fancy stuff. We'll use MSDN and other places to get a clear understanding of, to remember bits of the language that they're not completely comfortable with, but haven't used in a little while, because you can only remember so much. So of course the goal here is to find ways that you can make this returns a string. So what I've done, of course, is not done it properly. So, oops, wrong keyboard. Alright, so if I grab this S color equals, alright, so run it that way. There, perfect. Alright. So what I'd forgotten to do was actually, when I S color, right, instead of doing a dot to lower on it, we'll translate it all to lowercase, but It says, oh, you wanted that lowercase? Okay, here's the value, and it hands it to you. But if you're not ready to grab it, or save it, in this case, in the variable name, you can actually, you lose it. So that's why it wasn't remembering it. So in this case here, this chunk was actually my conversion to lowercase, but I wasn't saving it to then use it. Another shorthand, of course, is to grab that little chunk I've just highlighted and then paste it in there. So I convert that text to lowercase in there before testing it. Depending on what you're used to, it is actually less typey, texty stuff, but it doesn't clearly delineate the steps that you're doing. So and that's, you need to keep your stuff clear, really. If you don't, you lose track of it, because coming back to some of these programs I've written and I've looked at it again, I go, oh, I don't remember what I was aiming to do here. And these are the kind of things I touch on once a year as I go through and update them for the students, you guys. But it's also a bit of a challenge. Anyhow, building on this, see these colors here? We want to modify it. So I'm just going to cheat, copy into here, paste. Oh, whoops. Keep reaching for the wrong keyboard. Slide that one out of the way. So paste all that in here. So I have various text colors that I want to do. So when I type in black, I want to get a black text color, white foreground color. Let's go back here. Yeah, text color is white, background color is black. Well, that's kind of a useless option. Why did I put that in there? Let's flip those two around. So when you type in black, you get a black text color and a white background. Then we have cyan, magenta, dark blue and yellow, and black and white. So I've just actually done the black and white and the white and black. So I will copy, paste, white, copy, and see, cut and paste. It's one of the greatest things ever invented for creating quick code. Oops. So I'll get rid of that stuff. I need a magenta option. Can't use a capital M because I'm making it all lowercase. So the text is, the background's that, and of course that's that. I'm completely stuffing this up. It's not dark blue, it's cyan. And really this is a chance to sort of let you see the different colours that exist within the system. So the background will be, what on earth have I just done? Okay, well forget that, I don't want that. Oh, paste. And of course I need to change the text, so that's yellow. And you can see here, building up a stage at a time, I'm now getting a more and more complicated program. Now I want to change the background color of that to something else to match the blue. So that can't be that bad, I say, hopefully. So if I hit run on this thing, yellow, done. Run it again, and ideally you'd want to go through and test every single case. I can't even tell if that's a dark blue background, or maybe. It should be stronger than that, but anyhow, let's just drop it back to blue. So if I run it again, then type in yellow. Yeah, okay, that works a little better. But anyhow, so you can see here, building up the program a stage at a time. And that's pretty much it with the case statements. Yeah, I'll come back and explore the second chunk of using some of this stuff. There's an extension task that I've put together, but I really want to explore how to use compound if statements, because case really gives you these different options. So if I wanted to, I'll just, with the number task before, but if I set up so that if I type in blue or black, I get that sort of color response with a black foreground color and a white background color. So here, whatever I type in, so I type in blue, I get this black-white response, good old monochrome. And really, that gives you all options. But if you want to go for a really complicated thing and precisely pick out something so that if they're down to no lives in the game and have just achieved 10,000 points, you give them an extra life. But if they still have lots of lives, or more than 0 extra lives, and they pass that 10,000 mark, maybe you don't give them a life. So there's more complicated things going on there. But I'll show you how to do that at another time. Any questions, as always, please add comments.